Good evening and thank you for joining us. The province is making moves to deliver a two-dose summer, shortening the amount of time between first and second shots down to a minimum of just 28 days. And while not everyone will receive their second dose that quickly, Premier Doug Ford says as long as supply holds up, anyone who wants that second vaccine should now be able to get one by the end of August. Colin DeMello has the details.
It's the vaccination question that was left unanswered until today. People who received their first shot of the COVID-19 vaccine will now have a better estimate of when the second dose will be administered.
Starting on Monday, second doses will be offered to anyone over 80 years, followed by anyone over 70 years old, beginning the week of June the 14th.
The province's goal is to shorten the interval between doses to 28 days or 1 month, down from 4 months. But most will still have to wait longer because the province is following a first-in, first-out policy.
So while not everyone will be able to get their second dose shot 4 weeks after their first, we want to ensure you're fully immunized as soon as possible.
Here's how the schedule will work. Elderly Ontarians can begin booking their second dose on May 31st. Then, if you received your first shot between March 8th and April 19th, you can book on June 28th. If you received your first dose between April 19th and May 9th, you can book on July 19th. If you received your first dose between May 10th and May 30th, you can book on the 2nd of August. And anyone who gets their shot after May 31st will have to wait until August 9th to book.
There are very many ways that they can obtain a second shot appointment: through pharmacies, through primary care practitioners, through the online booking tool, through the phone lines.
While the province is planning for the long term, the Premier is also addressing the short-term question of schools and why the government is being indecisive.
I've never been afraid to make decisions. Matter of fact, I've made some of the toughest decisions and probably not popular decisions.
The Premier sent a letter to health and education experts asking for their opinion, even though many have already advocated for schools to reopen. Ford said he's simply being cautious.
I know very clearly where Dr. Williams stands, but I want the scientists to weigh in. I want to make sure that the teachers' unions weigh in. I want the other educational workers to weigh in. I just, I don't want to rush this. If it takes a couple extra days, so be it.
Leaving parents with an uncertain future as they look for clarity. Colin DeMello, CTV News.
A COVID-19 surge on a First Nation in the Greenstone area has led to a spike in new cases reported by the Thunder Bay District Health Unit. There are 18 new cases today, marking the first time in a month that the district has seen a double-digit case count. Only 1 case is in the Thunder Bay area, 14 come from First Nations communities, and 3 are from elsewhere in the district. 17 of the new cases are due to close contact. There's 1 new variant of concern that's been identified. The total number of active cases in the district has now jumped to 33. 22 of those cases are on the Long Lake 58 First Nation. Chief Judy Desmoulins has declared a state of emergency in the wake of the alarming surge. The general store on Highway 11 has been shut down until further notice. This is the 3rd outbreak in Long Lake 58, but it's the first time that a state of emergency has been declared during the pandemic.
2 weeks ago, we had 2 people had some severe flu-like symptoms. So they went into got some medical attention. And so because it was flu-like symptoms, they were tested. So they contracted the virus from some unknown source. It's practically touching every home, affecting every home in the community.
Desmoulins adds this time the virus has hit the community harder than before, sending 3 people to Geraldton Hospital. So far, less than half of the community has elected to get the vaccine. But the chief says many people are now asking when the next vaccination clinic will be held. The Northwestern Health Unit is announcing just 1 new case today in the Kenora area. There are currently 18 active cases in its catchment area. 13 of those are in Kenora. 4 come from the Sioux Lookout Hub. 1 is in the Atikokan area. To date, just under 60% of the eligible population in the NWHU area has received a first dose of the vaccine. The town of Emo, however, has only vaccinated 39% of its population. Health officials, though, say more clinics will be coming to that area over the next couple weeks. On the education front, Medical Officer of Health Dr. Kit Young-Hoon was among those who received a letter from Premier Doug Ford yesterday asking for advice on whether schools should reopen in June. Young-Hoon notes there are risks to both.
A number of negative health issues, so it decreases physical activity, as well as it has some mental health effects in the sense of increased behaviors that indicate anxiety or depression. We have messaged up to the province repeatedly over the past few weeks that schools in our catchment area can be open, and at this point, considering our case numbers and our incidence rates across the communities, that schools can open up.
Young people aged 12 to 17 will be the target of Operation Remote Immunity 2.0. Orange Air Ambulances will take off on Monday, headed for the first of 25 remote First Nations, and they're aiming to fully vaccinate 5,000 young people by the end of July. Operation Remote Immunity has already vaccinated adults in 32 First Nations between February and April. The new operation will be split in two. Orange will handle 25 communities, while the Winnebago Health Authority will serve the other 7. Teams of pilots, paramedics, nurses, and pediatricians will be deployed from Thunder Bay and fly to each community for a day to administer vaccines at community clinics. Doses will also be offered for those who missed out during round 1. This time it will be the Pfizer shot that's being offered.
Risks, right? Once you start to carry 2 vaccines and medication errors and so on. So we decided we'll bring Pfizer only, and we'll offer obviously first doses, and then we'll go back to community for second doses. If there's somebody that comes to the clinic that had a first dose of Moderna and requires a second dose, the local nursing station will be able to help with that. So we'll refer those people back to the local nursing station, and they'll be able to secure a second dose of Moderna there.
Orange plans to hit Nescantaga, Webequie, Slate Falls, Muskrat Dam, and Fort Severn next week to administer first doses. Despite objection from Lakehead University and a number of local leaders across the political spectrum, the Northern Ontario School of Medicine is now one step closer to becoming a standalone university. Critics say the move to sever NOSM's tie to LU and Laurentian University will cost students and taxpayers. But the Omnibus Bill 276 is now headed to third reading at Queen's Park.
Collaboration with the universities is so important.
Area MPPs mounted a last-ditch effort on Friday, calling for the removal of Schedule 16 from the Omnibus Bill 276. That's the section that calls to sever the Northern Ontario School of Medicine from its 2 host universities, Lakehead and Laurentian. NDP Judith Monteith-Farrell and Liberal Michael Gravel insist the PC plan is all wrong for the Northwest.
What it really needs is a cash injections and an expansion.
We will rue the day when this legislation goes through without the proper consultation.
But their objections to the Standing Committee on General Government, which had the power to amend the bill, fell on deaf ears.
In favor, please raise your hands.
The committee's 5 PC members pushed the bill through to third reading, edging out Monteith-Farrell and 3 other opposition members.
I declare the motion carried.
Despite previous assurances from NOSM President Dr. Sarita Verma that the change won't impact students or the region,
we're not leaving Thunder Bay.
Monteith-Farrell says severing the connection between the institutions allows that to happen at some point.
The academic relationship between universities and med schools is very important for a lot of reasons. And that is, I think, a lot of the pushback on this idea. The other thing is that when they are connected to Lakehead and Laurentian, we're assured that there isn't going to be a move out of Thunder Bay.
When the bill goes to third reading, the PCs, thanks to their majority, can push it through without support of other parties. And dissension within the government seems unlikely.
If you vote against anything the government puts forward, you're then removed and you become an independent. So I doubt if any of them, no matter how they feel, would vote against it.
It's been 65 years since a U.S. Air Force bomber crashed roughly 100 kilometers northeast of Thunder Bay, killing 3 airmen and leaving the pilot as the only survivor. There's been speculation for decades about whether or not the B-47 was carrying nuclear weapons and what that could mean for people traveling in that area. Sean Maloney, a professor of military history at the Royal Military College in Kingston, has been studying the incident for his next book. He believes it's very unlikely that a full nuclear bomb was on the plane at the time of the crash. He says in 1956, a plane would have to get presidential permission to carry an armed weapon. In order to test a pilot's abilities, the B-47s were often loaded with components found in nuclear bombs, like casing without the actual core. Maloney says it's entirely possible that the casing was on board at the time of the crash.
Like I said, you've got tritium, that's half-life, it's gonna disappear over time. It would have been a small bottle. You might have had a uranium rod in the secondary, and that probably would have been recovered, what was left of it. And the light elements themselves aren't fissile. The high explosive probably would have gone up in the crash. The beryllium maybe, but it's like that much. Not much. So I wouldn't think there'd be a lot of contamination or any contamination at all on the site, and especially if they went and did a cleanup way back then.
Maloney adds he can't be entirely certain that the plane carried any elements of a nuclear weapon. He also isn't concerned about ecological ramifications from this particular crash. An old movie theater on Thunder Bay's north side is being transformed into a retail warehouse. Local sustainable clothing company Ungali and its partner Superior Screen Printing are taking over the former Cumberland Cinema 5 to expand retail and production space. Catalina Gillies has that story.
Since launching Ungali Clothing Company in 2013, sisters Bree and Haley Hollinsworth have built a place for local artists and creators and have grown their sustainable clothing business tremendously, so much so that they needed to take the next step and move their company into a larger warehouse. However, their new production facility is unlike any other, inside a portion of the former Cumberland Cinema.
To kind of keep the vibe of the old movie theater alive in here, just using some of the old seats and offering some movie snacks, things like that.
Co-founder Haley Hollinsworth says they found the ad for the space on Facebook after searching for over a year. The sisters wanted the new location to be downtown to help grow and revitalize the community. They're also very excited for the opportunities it will bring.
Far, we've been in 3 different locations. We have a little storage space out on Roslyn, our screen printers on Simpson. So we're basically driving in circles all day, kind of bringing orders back and forth. So this will allow us to kind of make things a lot more efficient with our orders and basically be able to pump them out faster.
The old theater's only other tenant is the definitely superior art gallery. Bree Hollinsworth explains the plans for their portion of the building.
I have a store just up the street right now. It'll be I think 4 times the size of that store now, offering different local products. It gives us more room for our own clothing as well as everybody else more space. We can take on more local vendors. In the back, it'll be both us and the screen printer, so we'll keep all of our blanks and all of our sorting, offices, everything like that will be done all in the same place.
The Hollinsworth sisters hope to complete renovations and open their new location by fall of this year. In the meantime, their products can still be purchased online. Catalina Gillies, TBT News.
A local videographer has captured some dramatic images of the former Thunder Bay generating station before it's demolished over the next few years. Alan Auld is the owner of Imagine Films. He's also a licensed drone operator. He recently flew his drone over the decommissioned power plant, including the smokestack, which is the tallest structure in Thunder Bay. Last month, Ontario Power Generation agreed to sell the facility to Budget Demolition, which plans to salvage metal and equipment from the property before tearing it down and clearing the site for future development. Auld says he plans to document the whole process, but first he had to get a special permit from NAV Canada.
A drone, first of all, can only fly legally 400 feet in the air. This stack is 650. So there is a ways to do it, and it requires coordination with NAV Canada, and with the proper clearance, they can let you do it. I want to be ready for when that stack comes down, and we haven't been told from the salvage company when they're actually going to drop it, so I want to be ready.
The demolition process is expected to take up to 2.5 years. Auld believes the smokestack will likely be the final structure to be brought down. The Thunder Bay Regional Health Sciences Foundation announced the latest winning ticket number this afternoon for the fourth installment of its popular 50-50 draw.
You have just won $522,710.
You have just made my day for the year. I don't even know what to say in that. That's going to help a lot of people. I'm so floored right now. This couldn't actually happen more of a better time than now.
Carrie Negley from Quequebeca is the lucky winner of this month's grand prize. She was out working on her farm with her cell phone battery almost dead when she got the life-changing call. As mentioned, she'll take home the jackpot of more than $522,000. That same amount will go to the Hospital Foundation to purchase vital medical equipment. Tickets for next month's 50-50 can already be purchased online. That draw is on June 25th.
We announce the winners every month, and every month it's always an awesome story to follow up on for sure. Fiona, coming off a cooler Thursday and a frost advisory last night. Ooh, not so good. Today, bit of a bounce back.
Definitely an improvement after an overnight low of -3. Yikes. We did warm up to a high of 15. Still not quite seasonal for this time of year, but we're getting a little bit closer, and we had lots of sunshine to enjoy today. Winds, we'll call them moderate, east-southeast, so that was cool air, somewhat off the lake, 10 to 30 kilometers per hour. We're not the only ones that slipped below the freezing mark, though. The majority of the region did, certainly in Fort Frances, a low of -5, but they've hit a high of 17 at this hour, 16 in Atikokan and Upsala and Dryden, a little cooler in Kenora at 15, 18 in Red Lake at this hour. They too have a fair amount of sunshine. 17 in Sioux Lookout and Pickle Lake, 16 in Armstrong, 17 in Greenstone, loads of sunshine. Then we move down towards Marathon, and on the lake shore in this part of the region, it is a little bit cooler, just 12 Celsius, 14 in Sault Ste. Marie. However, the Sioux actually stayed above the freezing mark last night, so not quite as cool, but no, not quite as warm as some areas. Now, here in the city of Thunder Bay, we will drop down to a low of 1 Celsius. Not quite as cold as last night, but still flirting with the freezing mark. So fairly clear and cold. You might still want to cover any plants that you've already put into the ground. And then, as we head into Saturday, it's looking fairly nice. We've got some mild air, might add an extra degree or two, looking pretty good. However, there is a fairly narrow band of precipitation that's working its way in from the west that could cause a little bit of rain, hit or miss in the region. I'll have more details on who's going to experience it later on in the news hour.
Thanks a lot, Fiona. Well, a horrifying discovery has been made in BC on the site of a former residential school. We'll explain after the break.